Recording. So, welcome back, chapter 5 and 6 of Genesis. Y'all, I'm so excited. I'm just a nerd at heart. Oh, two people. Okay, hold on. Okay. Um, I am such a nerd at heart when it comes to like history and things like that. Y'all, this one is going to be good because I know, and please bear with me. I'm gonna try to get my voice, what do you call it? Like when it goes up and down and kind of make it somewhat interesting as we get through chapter 5. Chapter 5 is only the genealogy, and it seems boring and there's nothing there, but baby, there is stuff in there. Anywho, so we are in Genesis chapter 5. Um, just a quick recap. We have talked about Genesis 1 already, talking about the creation, how the world was started. We talked about how Adam was formed on the first Bible study. Then we did chapter 3 live, chapter 4 not live, but you can check on it on my YouTube. But chapter 3 was talking about the fall of man and what happened in the Garden of Eden. Chapter 4 talks about Cain and Abel and how Cain did his big one and killed his brother. So now we're going into chapter 5. Like I said, guys, bear with me. Chapter 5 is boring. I'm not gonna lie. But let's get started. All right. Genesis chapter 5. This is the written account of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, he made them to be like himself. He created them male and female, and he blessed them and called them human. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him in his very image. He named his son Seth. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Adam lived 930 years, and then he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived another 807 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Seth lived 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Kenan. After the birth of Kenan, Enosh lived another 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enosh lived 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he became the father of, bear with me, y'all, Mahalalel. After the birth of Mahalalel, sounds good to me, Kenan lived another 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Kenan lived 910 years, and then he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. And after the birth of Jared, Mahalalel lived another 830 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Lord, thank you. This is the last time I say his name. Mahalalel lived 895 years, and then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enosh. After the birth of, Enoch, I'm sorry, Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Jared lived 962 years, and then he died. Enoch was 65 years old, and he became the father of Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch lived in close fellowship with God for another 300 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enoch lived 365 years, walking in close fellowship with God. Then one day, he disappeared because God took him. Hmm. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived another 782 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Methuselah lived 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he became the father of a son. Lamech named his son Noah, for he said, may he bring us relief from our work in the painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord had cursed. After the birth of Noah, Lamech lived another 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Whew. So, y'all, we're about to unpack that. It might not seem like there's anything. Sorry. There might not seem like there's anything in chapter 5. But y'all, let's dive deep. So I want to do a small recap with chapter 4, just a small one. So we're looking at Cain and Abel. Cain had killed his brother Abel. Okay. Now, Cain is now cursed. Not only is he cursed, he is banished from the area that God had told him, like, it was okay for them to stay at, but he's now banished from that area. So the curse was that not only is he going to be banished from that area, he was going to be a wanderer. And the biggest part of that curse was that he was not going to be able, because remember, he was a tiller of the ground, he was a farmer. And it says in the curse that no matter how hard you work, nothing is going to work for you. Like, that's devastating to me. That this is something I'm skilled at doing. I'm producing things, but now God has cursed me to where the thing that I love to do, the thing that I'm skilled to do, nothing will work. Y'all, that's a lot. That's heavy. That's why he was so grieved by saying this punishment is so great. So now let's picture this. Let's like bring this to life. If he can't farm, what else can he do to survive? Let's think about it as Survivor. What is out there? Nothing. No toilet paper, no candy bars, no soda, no nothing. Like, you're just out there in wilderness. So there's water, there's fish, there's fruit and veggies, and there's animals. He wasn't a hunter. He wasn't a person that was like a shepherd or anything. He just knew how to till the ground. So now if he's wandering and the ground can't like bring forth anything from it, that means he has to wander from place to place to find food. That's the curse. So going into the rest of it, when it comes to Cain, I'm sorry I'm so geeked up and giddy about this because it's just mind-boggling. It says in chapter 4, verse 17, if we go back just one chapter, because like I'm about to clean this up and make all these connections. Cain had sexual relations with his wife. Pause. Where'd she come from? Who is she? His wife. If Adam and Eve were the first people, and we believe that, knowing the Bible, what we have just walked through, they're just the first people. Who is his wife? His wife is his sister. I know. Amen. How do we know? Because we read through chapter 4, they only talked about Cain and Abel, and they have talked about Seth as Adam's only kids. But this is why you got to go back and pay attention to chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 4. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. It says this after every key person, and this is the genealogy all the way down to Noah. After a person was born, whoever that head person was, it's now going down and it's saying after each one, take a look. They had other sons and daughters. Oh. So if Adam had other daughters, that was his sister. So let's picture this. Let's like break this down into like a movie scene for me. Baby boy gets get cursed. They got a family. There's other brothers, there's other sisters, and he killed one of them. There's always, and we've seen this too many times on television, there's always, or not television, just within your family, there's always like a brother and sister or two brothers or whatever, they're like really close knit. He's now banished. He's now wandering. So who goes with him? His sister. They're close knit. You might, Cain, don't leave. I gotta go. I will go with you. Come on. That's how I see it in my head, y'all. Bear with me. So they are now wandering around. And then what it says in chapter 4 is that Cain founded a city. When people read that part, they're like, because they don't know English. I know Coretta, she's a wordy, she's a really good when it comes to like words and songs. Founded a city. That means he is the founder. That means he had started the city. So he started a city with his next son, which is Enoch. And then they had other children. So they're banished away. But this is what's so crazy, y'all. Man, get your paper out. Enoch is the first, and then it keeps going down. And look at these names that when we're looking at chapter 4, it's Enoch, then Irad, and I'm looking at verse 18, and Irad to Mehujael, then Methuselah, sounds almost familiar, right? Lamech, and then it stops there. I know I don't want to confuse it. This is why I'm like pausing a lot because it's a lot of words. But when we go back and look at chapter 5, begin to watch this. Get your paper out. We think when it comes to when we read this, and I'm just going to read this verse over again because it's just going to exercise your head or your mind. It says, Adam was 130 years old, and he became the father of a son who was just like him in his very image. He named his son Seth. And after the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Adam lived 930 years old. Then he died. So what's interesting about that, we're thinking, here's Adam. He has Seth. He lives a long time, and then he dies. Seth now has a child. He lives a long time, and then he dies. That's how we're thinking it. Absolutely not. It said he lived 930 years. So if you draw it out, and let's just say this is 1 and this is 1,000. Hope y'all can see that. From here to here, he died, let's say right there. I hope y'all can see that. Is it trying to do it? Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's rude and disrespectful. 930. So you're talking about he lived to the point of right here. He had his son right here. That means he was still alive all these many years. Y'all see that? He was created. He had a son at 130, and he kept living. Seth, let me put it right here. Seth is now born at 130, and it says that, or 100, yeah, at 105 years old, he had a son. And I'll put that right here. His name was Enosh. So let's look at this timeline. I hope y'all can see this. This thing is so funky. It's a hater. I'm telling you right now, it's being a hater. Can y'all see it? Right there. I don't want to move. So if y'all can see what I'm looking at, or if y'all could draw it out on your paper, it's just rude. Like, I don't know how else to like hold this up properly.
Joy, you might be able to pull up the whiteboard in Zoom.
And you do that.
And you can still see us.
Well, wait a minute. I'm a hold still right there. So here it is. Seth is born, and then he's still living. Now his son is born, and now he's still living. Basically, if y'all could write it out, and that's why I really wanted y'all to write this out for your own self, make a starting point from 1 all the way down to basically 1,000, and then knock off just 70 years, because that's when Adam had died. Make another point of 105 years, so just a little inch, and draw it all the way out. He lived a total of 912 years. You keep doing it, going down, and guys, what I'm basically trying to show you is all these people were alive. From Adam, from all the way down to Lamech, that's Noah's daddy, he was alive. That was 8 generations. Y'all, 8 generations, Adam was alive. When the way that it's worded, it makes it seem like, oh, he was alive for a little bit and then died. Oh, he was alive for a long time. Oh my gosh, and then he died. No, he was alive. Like, he saw his great, 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 great grandkids. I don't know if did I miss a great, or did I need to add some more? I don't know. But basically, 8 generations. So let me put it to more perspective for me, or for y'all. My grandma, who just passed away, she was my grandmother. My mom, her grandmother, and I'm gonna start there. She was born in the 1800s. My grandma was born in 1930 something. My mom was born in 1955. I'm gonna tell my age. I was born in 1982. When you're looking at that genealogy, and I don't got any kids, but we could cross over to my brother because he got 2. We got 4 generations from my great grandmother. Then we got my grandmother, my mom, down to me, brother, and then my nieces. So those 4 right there, that's 4 generations, but that's only on in a spill of like maybe 100 years. When you start looking and nitpicking about certain things, you might be saying, oh, okay, all right, that's cool. But Adam lived 930 years. How many brothers and sisters, as it says in the scripture, was made in 930 years? We don't know if there's some twins in there. We don't know if there's any triplets in there. We don't know how many people was made during that time. Let's put it in more perspective. Now, I just said 4 generations from my great grandmother going down to my nieces. That's just 4. Roughly about what, 7 people ish. Um, when you talk about some uncles and some other people, 20, spreading them out a little bit. But let's go back to, let's take a trip. Let's take a mini trip. And I hope I'm not overwhelming y'all. Let's take a mini trip. Let's get on a plane. I'm not gonna tell you what airline. Let's go to Genesis, the 46th chapter, verse 26. Should have this already. Here we go. So where it says, this is at the point, and we're going to get to that eventually at some point. Lord have mercy. We have Abraham. He has a son named Isaac. He has a son named Jacob. Jacob got 12 kids. And from those kids, he had basically grew his little family. Joseph now goes to Egypt. He's now going to be Pharaoh. And well, he's Pharaoh at this point. So let's just read this. This is going to blow your mind right here, right? Verse 26, it says the total number of Jacob's direct descendants who went with him to Egypt, now counting his sons' wives, not counting the sons' wives, were 66. So from the 12, and we're talking about the boys here, we are at 66 people. In addition, Joseph had 2 sons who were in Egypt, who were born in Egypt. So altogether, there were 70 members of Jacob's family in the land of Egypt. So they were adding, we have 66, we have Joseph, his 2 sons, that's 3 more, and then we're going to add Jacob, which turns out to be 70 people. All right? Hold that in your brain real quick, because we're going to take another flight. One way. Let's go. We're making a round trip because we got to come back. Let's go to Exodus, the 6th chapter, verse 16. It's real quick, y'all. So I'm not going to read all of it because it's going to just be overwhelming. But 16 through 20, it talks about Jacob's son, Levi, okay? And his genealogy, which is 4 generations, just 4 generations, down to Moses. So Levi had a son, his son had a son, and his son had 2 sons. And it talks about Aaron and Moses. So just 4 generations. Now, this is going to blow your mind. You ready for this? We just said 70 people went into Egypt. We went through 4 generations. The children of Israel are in Egypt for 430 years. Turn with me one last time before we go back to Genesis. Exodus, the 12th chapter, verse 37. Give y'all a minute. Verse 37 says, that night, I'm going to tell you what's going on. The children of Israel are coming out of Egypt. They're now heading to the promised land. So remember, 70 people went in. 30 years have gone past. It says that night the people of Israel left Romeus and started for Sakah. There were about 600,000 men, plus all the women and children. Y'all, 4 generations, over 430 years, We're just talking about the men. 600,000 men, not including the women and children. So let's go back to Genesis. Genesis, the 5th chapter. It says in verse 5, Adam lived 930 years. So if 600,000 men were produced in that 430 years, Adam lived an extra 500. My God, how many people was produced from just him? We don't have the number. I'm not speculating, but it does say other sons and daughters. And then it happened again with Seth. And then it happened again with Enosh. They were living 900 years during this time. It kept like that. And now we're going to go to my next point. It kept like that all the way down to Enoch. Enoch is something special because at 65, he had a son, Methuselah. Methuselah is now born, and Enoch is having this close relationship with God. So close that this man didn't die. God did the supernatural and was like, man, you are so close to me. I'm just going to just, you know what, just come on home. Come on. Just, we're having dinner up here in heaven, and I think you just need to come. You know, I'm tired of just talking to you on the phone. Let's just talk face to face. We're good. They're fine down there. You come on home. So let's look at this. If we're looking at this timeline, we got 5 generations from Adam going down to where Enoch is. He's gone. Now we have Methuselah, we have Lamech, and now we have Noah. Again, to do a recap, Noah is alive all throughout all of that, down to Lamech. He is alive. He didn't die until Lamech was like in his 50s. So you talking about what is being presented at this time? Can you imagine? I mean, the reason why I'm taking this so deep is because remember what's going on. Adam and Eve got kicked out. They're outside of Eden. Cain has now been kicked out of that area. And when you go back in verse chapter 4, it said that he lived on the east side of Eden. So he just moved around the corner. I'm gonna touch back with Cain in just a second, because that one that's nice. But he's around the corner. So what are we seeing here? What do we remember from chapter 3? That after they've been kicked out, God puts an angel right there with a flaming sword that's going back and forth to enter into Eden. So can you imagine that as you're talking to your kids, and you're like, hey, you know what I did? I ended up getting kicked out of Eden. Like, you're walking around and you're looking at Eden, and your child asks, what is that thing just going back and forth? I got kicked out of Eden. I used to live in there. How many times are you going to tell that story? Everybody sees it. Everybody knows. We are looking at this flaming sword. I don't care how far away, but even if the kids were, I mean, it's like hills away. Kids going around, playing around. They don't have nothing else to do. Kicking rocks. That's all they're doing. They don't have nothing to do. Run around, boom, you see this flaming sword. What happened with that? Oh, you don't know about granddaddy? He didn't tell you about what happened? You go back to granddaddy, because you can. And you're like, hey, granddaddy, what happened with that flaming sword? Oh, well, you know what? Go get your great grand or your son or get whoever. Let's gather around. Let me tell you the story again. You can tell this story for 930 years. Everybody knows. This is not no hidden secret. You know how like parents want to be like, oh man, I'm not going to tell them what I did. You know, I was out there running these streets, but I'm not going to tell them I was really out here just giving up the cookie. You don't want to tell all that backstory, but that one being a flaming sword right there, everybody sees. Everybody knew. You're telling the story how this is God. We need to worship him. We need to be obedient to him because look what happened to me. I'm outside of Eden, and there's a flaming sword that's going to be able to tell the story for generations to come. So 8 generations. Every time somebody had a child, I don't know, he might have told them when they were 6, 8, 10, whatever. And they were able to go ahead and tell the other sons and daughters. Everybody knew. But let's go back. Let's look at something else about this. It's so good to me. um, let's look at how even Cain was around the corner on the east side of Eden. This is so good to me because here is Cain. He still has a relationship with his family. It's not like he was just took a boat and went like far off. You can tell they have a good relationship. How do you know this? Check out the names. Look at verse 18 of chapter 4. It says, Enoch had a son named Irad, and Irad had Methuselah, and then he had a son named Lamech. So when you look at those names, let's switch over to Enoch. Enoch is in a lineage of Seth. I'm talking about several generations. I think he was number 5 or 6. Enoch is the firstborn of Cain. So somebody is like, Jared, like, man, I love my great great uncle. I'm gonna name my son after him. You know how we do. Like if I had a son right now, I've always said that I was going to kind of mix in the males in my family just to put into one child. Was I was going to name him Titan Dean. This is when I was younger. We're not going to do that because it sounds real hood and ghetto. um Titan was going to be from my uncle Tyrone Brandon, so I was going to put Tyden together, and then my dad's name, his middle name was Dean, so I was going to call him Tyden Dean. It just sounds like Jimmy Dean too much, like a sausage, and I didn't want my child to get picked on. So Lord bless me and said, you know what, we're not having children right now until we can like switch that up. But anyways, going back to what I'm saying, um, we have Enoch and we have the other Enoch, Cain Enoch, and we have Seth Enoch. One is older, and there's a close relationship. This is how we know this was like a really tight knit family at some point, because let's look at Enoch's son. Look at his name, like his grandson. It's very similar to Enoch's son, Methuselah. Like it is very similar. But then here it is, Enoch's grandson. He names his son Lamech. And guess what Methuselah does? He names his child Lamech. Now, this ain't no little coincidence. I mean, just like we have a whole series of Brandons and we got a whole series of Tiffany's. I think there's like a couple of Tiffany's on this call. Like, no, these are very unique names that they were still bonded together, even as they're starting to spread out. multiple people at this point. But let's continue and let's talk about Noah. Noah, Noah, he is different. Noah is born from Lamech. Lamech was 182 years old when he had his son. So let's paint a picture of what's going on at this point. Who's still alive at this point in time when Noah is now growing up? The only two people besides Abel being killed and then Cain's great grandson or whatever, he killed somebody else. But in the lineage from Adam going down to Seth and all that, the only people that had died at this point that it shows in the Bible was just Adam and Seth. There were still four other, you talking about the grandson was still alive that could tell all the stories deeply of everything that was going on during that time for all those many years. Centuries, I should say. And then as Noah was getting older, boop, the grandson had died. Another 100 years go by, boop, another one died. It just seemed like they were just dropping off after 100 years, but they were just like slowly. 100 years go by, another one drops off. All the way to the point, I mean, after Enoch is gone, all the way to the point now it's only Methuselah and it's Lamech. Methuselah and Lamech. Now they got to see Shem, Ham, and Japheth being born because Noah was 500 years old when they were born. So here, the grandson was able to see him, the father was able to see him, and we got Noah. Okay. But something interesting is happening. And we're about to go walk into chapter 6. So before, because chapter 6 is very, very quick. Before I go into chapter 6, does anybody have any questions? Because I know that was a lot. There's a lot of names.
I don't have any questions. I just think as you were talking, I was like, we're only talking about the boys.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, who actually knows how many people there were?
That's what I'm saying. They don't give a number. When going, when we went to Exodus to look at that real quick, it wouldn't even give a number then. It was just showing the 600,000 people. So as we're getting into chapter 6, I'm just like, okay, let's just roughly say it was like 1 million people per generation that's being born. Let's just say, and if it was 8 generations, easily could have been 88 million people or more. That's Atlanta. Anyways, anybody else got a comment? Anything? Chapter 6 is quick. All right. Going to chapter 6. It says, then the people begin to multiply on the earth. Multiply. Mm-hmm. Okay. And daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women and they took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, my spirit would not put up with the humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years. In those days, for some time after, giant Nephilim lived on the earth. For whenever the sons of God had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient time. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was constantly and totally evil. So the Lord was so sorry he ever made them and put them on the earth, and it broke his heart. And the Lord said, I will wipe this human race I have created from the face of the earth. Yes, I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and even the birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them, but no one found favor with the Lord. I'm gonna stop right here because I just want to like hit this point real quick. Most people that have read this part, or that's part where is verse 1 through 3, or I should go down to like 6, um, and they're like, oh my gosh, those sons of gods, those are like demons coming down having sex with people, and they ended up impregnating them, and they became giants and they walked around. I don't know. I really, really don't know about that. But could it be? Could it be? I also had studied and saw there was another point that could be considered. I cannot tell you exactly what happened in that whole situation. One thing I can say is that the other idea is that the sons of gods were also looking at the genealogy of Moses. What we were talking about from Adam to Noah, it's been said by some theologians that they were basically called the sons of God because they had a relationship with God. If you read back in chapter 4, like towards the end, it was like they were starting to worship God by their name, I mean, by his name. There's that idea that is that they were called the sons of God, and that the sons of man were considered Cain, and that in that, because they were mixing together, um, like these big giants were coming out. Now, I can't touch it. Both of them are wild to me. I'm being honest. That's a question I want to ask. I need to know what this meant. I need to know what was Moses' last name. Um, I need to know why spiders were made. These are questions that I personally would like to sit down sometimes in eternity to be like, Lord, why? Can you put up a video for me? Can you explain something? I can't answer that. And that's why I just want to highlight just both sides of what was said. Like, were there angels coming, having sex with women, and they produce all these giants and war heroes and all that? Possibly. Were they just the sons of men? I mean, sons of Seth mixing with Cain because he was cursed? Possibly. But I'm telling you right now, I do not know. The other part that was also interesting, because I was like taking a lot of time reading this section, the 120 years. Here's another thing I don't know. And I'm giving you both sides and I'm putting it out there. I'm just like, we don't know. The 120 years is said that this is going to be the cap lifespan. Now, as we continue going through Genesis, you will start seeing that the cap lifespan does start shrinking down. But there were people that were living past that 120 years, even all the way through to Moses' time, where it shows people were living 120 years. I even think, if I'm correct, Joshua, I think he was close to 120 or he surpassed it himself. So I'm not sure if God is like, hey, 120, stop. but he allows favor on certain people to allow them to stay alive. Or what was also put out there is that when he was saying that, it was 120 years before the flood. Don't know, can't tell you, not trying to go ahead and lead y'all a certain type of way, but just throwing it out there before I continue with the little bit of story of Noah. Going back to verse 9, it says, "This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at that time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was the father of three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now God saw that the earth had became corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all the corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out, and then construct decks and stalls throughout the interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. But put the door on the side and build three decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you, your wife, your sons, and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, male and female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to keep to be kept alive. And be sure to take on board enough food for your family and all the animals. So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded. So with this part of the section, Noah was 500 years old. It is said that it took about 75 years ish, but we don't know, to build the boat. Reason being is because what I do know for a fact is that he had three sons and they were born when? 500 years. The flood happened when he was 600 years old. So between that time, once it was completed, once we go into chapter 7, as soon as it's completed, they were going on in. So he needed some help. I'm thinking the boys were about maybe 20, 25, about 75-ish years. That's where I'm getting that from. I'm not trying to pull some out of my pocket or whatnot. So from that, he ended up obeying God by building this boat. And it's not really a boat, it was kind of more like a ship, like an ark. You know, everybody knows it as Noah's Ark. But here's something else that I just got nerdy with. I was like, how big was the ark? So I know we do know about like the story of Titanic and everything. It wasn't as big as Titanic, but it was about half its size. It was pretty big. It wasn't as long. I think it was almost twice as long it was. Um, it was pretty tall, almost the height of it, but it was pretty huge. So for him to construct all of that, and it was not like he constructed on some water. He constructed it on some land. Now, can you imagine? Now, real talk. You out here hearing all this banging. Like, it already annoys me when I hear people out here mowing their lawn at 8 o'clock in the morning. I know this is your time to go do it, but my God, it's a lot of work and it's waking me up. just went to bed. You up here sawing, banging, constructing things out here on land, a boat. Have they probably made any other type of boat? Possibly. But that size, do you know how many people would have talked about him during that time? Everybody. I honestly would have. I'm gonna be honest. It's just like somebody right now tell me, oh Joy, you see homeboy over here making a time machine? What? Why? What are we doing? Lord help me. I'm not supposed to be gossiping and praying, talking about this person, but hey, this is what it is. So yeah, he's building a boat. That's wild to me. But he obeyed God no matter what anybody said because he had a close relationship with him. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what other people might do or what not. If God tells you to do it, do it. And as you see, well, as things go on next week, we will be talking about how he goes into the flood and everything is destroyed. But let me do a little small recap. Let me just end it on this because we are just almost at our hour. Let me tell you about the grace of God. The grace of God about this. Remember we were talking about the genealogy and we talked about how Noah had basically 8 generations ahead of him. And as he was growing up, 100 years, somebody's dying. Boom, 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 boom. One disappears. So now we're left with the grandfather and his daddy. His daddy stayed alive all the way into a few years. Because when you match it up, I want y'all to take time, draw it out so it can just blow your mind. A few years before the flood. A few years. Like when I say a few, like 4 years. So that means during the time that he is constructing this boat, he has a death. His daddy died, but he was still obedient to God. Here's another thing. Who is left now out of his lineage is his granddaddy. His granddaddy died the very year that the boat was done. I'm not giving excuses about death, but sometimes God might be giving you favor because the only ones that were supposed to go into this boat was him and his wife, his sons and his wife. I couldn't imagine if God told me to make a boat, I make a boat and everything, and then God says, okay, now I'm about to flood this whole place, and you know what? Everybody on this call, you can't take with them, huh? My mama, but I love her like cornbread muffins. I at least got to take my mama. Yo, my inner circle. What? Who am I going to talk to? I was just on the phone with one of them till like for 5 hours. I can't take them. I'm not saying that death is okay or whatever the case is. But what I am saying is that before you got to a point where you might disobey God, he allowed that person to go home. Because at this point, all he had from his lineage, because everybody had died off, is just him, his wife, and his kids, and his kids' wives. That was it. So let me skim through. I think I touched everything. Boop, 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 boop. Mm, yep, yep. Hit that. Should I go over that part? Yep, I did hit that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that was it. So yeah, guys, there's so much. There was so much. I know it was just a genealogy, but when you put it and use word for word and then try to picture it, you will be like, wow, I didn't know it was all of that in there. Yeah. So, yes, guys, thank you. I've been geeked up about this moment for about 3 weeks now. Like, this this has been so good. I love when God is intentional. I know I'm wrapping things up, y'all, but when he's intentional, when he's saying, like, he's allowing, because this is the word of God. He's not going to add things or take away things. And I'm talking about, like, not like the and the and do that. You know what I mean? Like these simple words. But what is he trying to say in here? Why is he adding years? That should like highlight you, like put a highlight right there, pin drop. Why is he adding years to that? Why is he saying yellow? Why is he like giving the description? There is a reason behind it. And when you do some extra research, it will blow your mind like, yo, this makes it like 10 times bigger than what it really was. So, yeah, I'm I'm glad everybody came in. Um, and yeah, if anybody has any questions, like I said, it was a lot. There's a lot, a lot of names. And look, I messed up on some of these names. Lord forgive me. But I'm grateful that they had a Jared in there because I knew it was Jared. But just join with me next time. Um, I will be back again, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Oh, KK, yo, got to come an hour before, boo. The miss you much, but y'all text me if y'all have any questions. I'll try to break it down, and then join in on, or if you miss it, go on YouTube. I've already broke down the first and second chapter, the third chapter, the fourth chapter, and give me about an hour. I'll have this put up on YouTube. It's at New Jones, NUU Jones. So until next week. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Let's pray out. Sorry. Greta.
That was amazing. To God be all the glory. You can hear me fine?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop
Okay.
the recording.